Dr. Katie Pierce, and I am a licensed clinical psychologist. I've been practicing for about the last 10 years, primarily with Navy and Marine Corps service members and also their families. In addition to that, a lot of my more recent work has been in the area of prevention and building resiliency within different populations and individuals, and then also working on people who have been through catastrophic events or isolating events. How do we have growth and resiliency through those experiences? And so today I just wanted to chat with you guys for a little bit about resiliency, and then also what are ways that we can help our families during this coronavirus or COVID time, right? Because the pandemic disrupts our schedule, it disrupts our lives in ways that are considered sort of catastrophic events, similar to what we would see in catastrophic events. In addition to being a licensed clinical psychologist, I am also a mother of two wonderful and exuberant daughters who are 6 and 9 years old. And so I also have that experience of being a parent that is trying to manage working from home most of the week, homeschooling my children who all of a sudden aren't in their normal routines and normal schedules, and then dealing with all of those stresses kind of related to the coronavirus and what we have right now. So with all of that, let's kind of get started. I wanted to start off with just a quick definition of what is resilience. We hear that word a lot, but a lot of us don't quite know what that means or how that's built. And so the best definition I have for that is resilience is the ability to bounce back quickly when faced with adverse situations, right, or with adversity. So resilient people tend to have normal reactions to crisis situations, right? So they have all of the same intense emotions that people who aren't as resilient have, that we all have in crisis situations. But in the midst of those intense emotions and the doubt that we all feel when we are in the middle of a crisis, they quickly resume and come back to the behaviors and ways of thinking that promote healthy recovery. Right? That's sort of what a resilient person does. They kind of adapt in the face of adversity. And so we know that when faced with a crisis, non-resilient people tend to look at short-term kind of future, right? And they predict that the worst is going to happen. So they're thinking very short-term, and then they're thinking that the worst is going to happen. They ask themselves, why is this happening? And in response to that question, the brain, kind of like an internet search bar, when you type in the question, it brings up all the memories of all the bad things that have occurred and all of the mistakes that that person has made in their lives that have led them to this point of the crisis. This then gives them overwhelming evidence, right, that says you are a failure, you are no good, there's always going to be a mistake, things always work out poorly. That's what then leads to hopelessness and those feelings of despair. Right? When we start to have that, then we have an action and we don't actually do anything in our situation to regain balance or to maintain control and predictability in our environment. Now, when faced with a crisis, the resilient individual, they're going to look long-term into the future. So they're going to sort of see things as this long-term journey that they are on. And they're going to think about their goals within that situation. And they're going to ask, how can I overcome this challenge? Now, in response to this question, right, the brain does that same search, right, of their memories. It brings up all the memories of the bad things and mistakes that they have experienced in their life. But instead of focusing on the overwhelming feelings that come with all of those mistakes, their search, right, or their query focuses them on how they overcame those challenges during that time. What that does, instead of all the evidence of how much they failed, that gives them the evidence they need that this is just one more challenge that we're all faced with, that we're all going through, and that can be overcome, just like they've overcome many other mistakes and problems in their life. That will lead us to hope, right? And then potential actions. So say, okay, in this current situation, what is it that I can do? Okay? So the key to developing a resilient attitude really focuses on how do we talk to ourselves when we're in the midst of a crisis. Right? Asking yourself future-oriented questions increases the options that our brain has available to us at that point. Okay? That then increases our hope, and then that increases our resilience. So when we choose to act instead of react to a situation, we start to be on that path towards resilience. Okay? Now that doesn't mean we do that 100% of the time, right? We can still be on that path, and then we have those days where everything is chaotic, the kids aren't listening, the child refuses to do their homework, they refuse to eat anything, they just whine all day long, right? And at that point, we're just reacting to the situation. But in general, resilient people are going to say, okay, well, tomorrow's a new day, right? What can I do in the next hour or later today that's going to help us kind of get back on track? What are our priorities and goals for our family? So here's just some quick steps that you can use to sort of help break that negative talk cycle. Okay? So the first thing is, when feeling overwhelmed, we want to start with just taking a couple of slow, deep breaths. So let's do that together right now. Okay, we're going to inhale for a count of 4. That just sort of helps to slow us down. That's why we pick 4. We're going to hold the breath for 4, and then we're going to exhale for 4. So let's go ahead and do that together. We're going to inhale. We're going to hold it for 4, and then we're going to exhale. Let's do another one of those together. We're going to inhale. We're going to hold it, and then exhale. Right? That sort of slows everything down, brings the intensity of what we're feeling in that situation down. Next, we want to accept the way that you're feeling by stating what those feelings are. Right? I am feeling stressed, frustrated, angry, whatever the situation is. What is it that you are feeling in that time? Then we want to give ourselves permission to feel that way. Right? So this is a normal, I can feel this way if I want to. Right? If my 6-year-old is adamantly refusing to do anything and my 9-year-old is yelling at her, right? It is okay in that moment as a parent. It is normal for me to feel frustrated, right? And I just need to name it. Okay, what is it that's happening right now? And then we want to focus on a future statement, right? So something like, how do I want to respond in this situation, right? If possible, writing down our thoughts to this question helps, because there's probably multiple things, some more helpful than others, that we are thinking about what we want to do in that situation, right? Then, once we've done that, we've thought about how do we want to respond in this situation, we take another slow, deep breath, and then we make a decision about how we want to act. Right? That's how we become more active in a situation versus just reacting to what is our initial feeling in there. Okay? The second thing I want to talk with you guys about today is just a little bit on some advice and some activities in dealing with families during this time, and with our children especially. Okay? So first, children are generally more resilient than we believe that they are. Okay? The biggest mistake that we tend to make as parents in trying to give support to our children is that we underestimate their psychological strength, and we project our fears onto them, right? So we think because we're afraid of something that they're automatically afraid of it. Okay? Now, some children are in a state of crisis because their normal routines have been disrupted because of the coronavirus activities, and they don't understand why. Or they're focusing on the fears of the adults around them. They have felt some of the fear, they've heard it in newscasts or overhearing us talk to people, and so they're starting to take that on. Some children, on the other hand, think that this is a great time. They are super excited because the people they love most are spending a lot more time with them. They don't have to go to school, although if you're like my 9-year-old child, she was in tears when she found out school was canceled. The crisis for them oftentimes won't come until after things return to normal, right? Because now all of a sudden mom or dad are back at work full time. They're not home with them anymore. They have to go back to school where maybe they had some fears and anxieties in there. A few kids are in crisis because they can't engage in social activities. They liked having all of their activities and seeing their friends, and they can't. And yet for others, their social contact was already electronically and virtually, and so for them it's no different than before all of this happened. Okay? So bottom line here, not all children, even within the same family, are going to react in the same. Okay? The greatest need for children during this time of crisis are to first take care of any immediate health needs, okay? And then we want to kind of give them the ability to predict and maintain a sense of control again, okay? So some ways we can do that is actually by talking to them first about the coronavirus. So here are some things about kind of how we can talk about the coronavirus with our kids. Number one is to keep your own anxiety in check, okay? If you are nervous, your children are going to end up being nervous as well, given the situation. Next, you want to assess what your child knows. They likely have heard something from somebody, whether it's a peer, a teacher, the news, overhearing your conversations on the phone. And so you want to start by asking your child, what have they heard, right? If your child is under the age of 6, use your best judgment. But if they haven't heard about the virus yet, you might not want to bring it up at that point, okay? For them, they didn't have school, maybe they had something canceled, but that happens all the time, and so there's no need to create anxiety in our kids if they haven't heard about it when they are that young. Okay? The other thing is to not dismiss their fears. So if they talk to you about their fears and you just say, oh, you'll be fine, don't worry, it's going to be fine, right? They may not feel heard, which actually creates more nervousness because now there's a big unknown in there. They can't predict it, okay? So for instance, if they heard a story or a rumor that scares them, right, like people are dying because of this, right, we want to listen to what they're saying. We want to acknowledge their fear and their feelings, and then we want to talk to them in a calm manner. Right? So we might tell them about a time when you were scared and how it got better. Once your child is calm, then you can try talking to them again about the virus. Maybe while doing a different task this time, right? Eating a meal or playing a game, something like that, okay? When we're talking to kids in an age-appropriate level, these are some things to consider. So preschool-aged kids, keep explanations brief and simple. Tell them adults will keep them healthy and safe. Right? For early childhood, so that elementary school age, they might be more vocal and ask more questions. We want to discuss efforts that the school and the community are taking to prevent the germs. And with adolescents, for this one, be ready to handle more in-depth conversations, but you do still want to kind of emphasize hygiene even with them, right? So we're going to go through a couple of signs of stress. I'm also below, there's going to be a printout for you, a handout for you where more of these are in depth so that you can have that with you. So for signs of stress, we're looking at preschool children. Those are 0 to 5 years of age. These might be things like getting back to thumb sucking or wetting their bed. They might become more clingy. Changes in their eating or sleeping habits are really common. And changes in their mood. So you might see them acting out more or withdrawing more, right? So things that you can do if you notice some of these signs, get down to their eye level, speak in a calm and gentle voice with them, let them know that they're safe and that you will keep them safe and they're well cared for, and try to keep normal routines as much as possible during this time, right? For that early childhood, so that's about ages 6 to 12, some signs of stress are that they might fear going to school or stop playing with friends. They might act younger than their age, so all of a sudden your 9-year-old might be acting like your 6-year-old. I certainly know I have had moments where that seems to be the case. They may start having some bad dreams, or you might see an increase in that whining behavior that often happens, or more aggression in them. So some things you can do for that age group, that 6 to 12, play sessions, so making sure they're staying in touch with their friends virtually if they want to do that. This is a great time for them to FaceTime with their friends. Engage them in school activities, so have them doing something on a regular basis that's challenging them cognitively. Maintain structure. We want to set gentle but firm limits. Okay, this is not a free-for-all time. There's still boundaries and there's still rules in the house that need to be followed. Ask them about their worries, and then also ask them how you can help. Right? So sometimes with my 9-year-old, I'll say, do you want me to help you solve this problem, or do you just want to talk about this problem right now? Right? That also lets me know what they need so that I don't annoy them when I try to solve their problem when that wasn't what they wanted. Finally, if you're able to, limit media exposure, right? So they don't necessarily need to be processing all the media stuff that is out there. And then address that stigma and clarify any misinformation if they do hear information from the media about the coronavirus, right? Let's talk a little bit about screen time. I know that oftentimes, and as the psychologist in me, I'm going to tell you limit screen time as much as possible. But the parent in me will tell you that during the coronavirus, there are certainly days where all that I can manage for that day is to let them be on the electronics all day long. And that is perfectly okay. Give yourself some grace for that. It is perfectly okay to have those days where it's like, nope, I just need them to be on that screen time right now, and we'll get back on track the next day. Okay? All right, so for those adolescents, so ages 13 to 18, some signs of stress. Older teens may say, I'm okay, or stay silent when they're upset. They might experience unexplained physical aches or pains due to anxiety. At any age, you might see a little bit more tummy aches than normal, things like that. They also may be engaging in risky or acting out behaviors. So things that you can do for that age group: show patience, tolerance, and reassurance with them. Encourage the continuation of routines that they had prior to the virus. Encourage staying in touch with friends virtually. Also encourage, but do not force discussion of the virus with friends and family, right? If they want to talk about it, great, you're open to talk about it, but it doesn't need to be a forced thing. And then also for them, if you're able to limit kind of that media exposure in there, okay? Some things that you can say to your kids during this coronavirus time if you're not quite sure what to say. Reassure them that adults at home and school are taking care of their health and safety, right? That people are thinking about that and doing things for it. Let them know not everyone will get the virus, right? The schools and stores are closing to make sure as few as possible people get sick, right? This is one thing that we did with our 6-year-old when everything was starting to close down and activities were canceled. We said, listen, you are at low risk, and even if you do get it, you, me, mommy, daddy, we're all healthy. We don't have any other medical conditions. We're going to be okay. But we do our mask and we're staying in our homes because we're protecting the grandmas and grandpas out there and the people that do have a sickness already. And that was a way that she could sort of understand why all of that was happening without being scared that she was going to die from it. Letting them know that there's ways to stay healthy, right? So avoiding kind of contact with people who are sick, staying home if they're sick, how properly, if they cough or sneeze, to do it in the crook of their elbow or in a tissue, washing their hands at least 20 seconds. Those are all active things that they can concentrate on that'll make them feel a little bit better about the situation. And then finally, this is a great time. We have all this time without any interruptions to have fun activities with the family and family time. And so do some things with your kids that you don't normally do. So play their favorite video game with them. Have a family game day or night. Cook a meal together. Help them with their homework. Watch cartoons or movies with them that they've been wanting to watch. A good thing for sort of long-term thinking is plan the next family vacation. All right, when this is all done, where are we going to go? What do we want to do? Work together on some of those, house honeydew items. Maybe it's time to family clean out the garage or do something like that. And try working out together in the house or in the yard, right? In terms of working out, that can be really hard right now, right? Sometimes we can get out for a walk or a bike ride, but sometimes we have to be a little bit more creative during these times. I know with my 6-year-old, she's a little bit delayed when it comes to reading, and so we were having a little bit of trouble getting her motivated to do sight words. I also was having trouble getting out and to do physical fitness, so I thought, let's combine the two things. And so we created this game where we hold up the sight word. If she gets it right, then she has to tell mommy what exercise I have to do. So that might be a minute of push-ups or sit-ups or burpees or jumping jacks. But if she gets the word wrong, then she has to do the exercise. And so it was a great way of bringing in both physical fitness and also helping them with a challenging thing or trying to motivate them to do some of that schoolwork that's maybe hard for them. And then finally, just listening to music, right? Sometimes that's just a nice way to sort of relax, listen to music, do puzzles together. In the end, things are probably going to go wrong at some point in your household during this time, or we're going to make mistakes when we're trying to parent during this crisis. But don't worry, all is not lost when that happens, right? So again, resiliency is about adapting when we have those challenging moments. Resilience will be developed in your children when they feel overwhelmed and they continue to be able to resolve the issue. That is when resilience is developed. As parents, we're going to second guess ourselves. We're going to start doubting our own abilities. When this occurs, reach out to some of those trusted friends, parents, peers, anybody that you sort of trust to say, hey, I'm second guessing, I'm doubting. And if we need to, then we get a little pep talk from somebody else and confirmation that it will be okay, right? You guys will get through this, and we will come out on the other side kind of stronger families and more resilient. So in the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy. I hope for peaceful family times for you, and when that doesn't work, that you're just able to make it through kind of those chaotic times, and I know that you will be more resilient in the end. If you have any questions or concerns, or you feel like, hey, during this time I'm feeling a lot more depressed than I have been, a lot more anxious, certainly reach out to your local resources out there in Vail. There's some great resources in your local community. And hopefully when all this is over, you'll get to hug your loved ones and go out and eat at a nice restaurant. Bye.